Back in the day, and I say back in the day referring to like 5-6 years ago, we used to make videos every once in a while just going over deep dives on prospects. This was a thing, and I was a very happy camper when I had the opportunity to talk about some random guy that my favorite team, the Vancouver Canucks, would draft in the 6th round or something. We had a lot of people watching these videos, and a lot of folks who were tuned in and interested in seeing what the future of the Canucks had in store. Unfortunately for us, many of the prospects in which we made videos about did not end up becoming anything for Vancouver. The Colins of the world, the Gadjeviches, even the Adam Gaudettes, they didn't go out there and actually make a significant impact with the Vancouver Canucks, but we still had fun talking about them and going over their stories as they progressed to higher levels of play. What I wanted to do in 2023 was really start to dive more so into that type of content again, because we've got a lot of really interesting names that my favorite teams have drafted, and a really good amount of data going on about these guys circulating the web. It makes for some interesting conversation, and I think it'll provide a lot of fans with some good entertainment. So, without further ado, we're going over to the Vancouver Canucks and their 2023 NHL Entry Draft, and talking about a guy on the blue line who has one of the most frustrating names this team has to spell. Let's talk today about the Vancouver Canucks 3rd round pick, 75th overall, Hunter Brzustewicz. And yeah, it's spelt weird. But we're going to go with Brzustewicz because that's how all the OHL commentators go out there and say it. This is a really interesting name that I wanted to explore more so in a deeper dive video, rather than just gloss over him like we did in the post-draft video when we actually saw him get his name called by Vancouver. Who is Hunter Brzustewicz? What's he about? What's his game like? And where can we see him go in the next few years? Let's talk about that and more in this video. Hunter Brzustewicz is an 18-year-old right-handed defenseman, 6 feet 190, who was drafted, as we had said, by the Vancouver Canucks in the 75th overall spot. Now, we said all this back in the draft video, but he was a pretty good pickup at 75, considering that he was supposed to go 52nd according to Elite Prospects, 51st according to Future Considerations. Craig Button had him at 61, McKean's at 66. For all intents and purposes, this was a second-round guy that the Vancouver Canucks drafted in the 3rd round. And that's great, because the Canucks did not have their second-round pick this previous draft. They lost it in the Filip Hronek deal, and the Red Wings ultimately flipped that Canucks second to Nashville, but either way, the Canucks didn't own their second, and they used their 3rd to get a guy that was a second-round caliber talent instead. Pretty good business, if I do say so myself. This previous season in the OHL's Kitchener Rangers system, Hunter Brzustewicz as a right-handed D had 57 points in 68 games played, 6 goals, 51 assists. He also had 4 points in 9 games in the OHL playoffs. Now, the thing is, Brzustewicz is American. He's from Michigan, he's from Washington, Michigan, which, I'm only learning today was a city, so there you go. But you could actually see that he did play with the US NTDP before heading over to the OHL. It's an interesting sort of progression there, because normally US NTDP players end up going to the NCAA, but if you go to the OHL, which is technically Major Junior, you forfeit your NCAA eligibility. So if Brzustewicz wanted to go the college route, he would not be able to do that anymore. Instead, he's committed to the OHL now, he's going to be sticking around there, and as a Vancouver Canucks prospect, we're going to hopefully see more of his development as the years go on. Let's head over onto an article published by my good buddy Chris Faber on CanucksArmy.com. Chris has been doing an amazing job just going over prospects and writing about each one of these guys, but according to Faber, this player is the 10th best Canucks prospect in the system right now. He already has enough puck-moving skill to project as a pro player. And if you wanted to go over some stats, Faber has your back. He says that the 57 points that Brzustewicz scored made him the highest scoring draft-eligible defenseman in the OHL last year. And if you take a look at the progression for 22-23, you'll see that he had 7 more points than the second most productive OHL draft-eligible D-man, Tristan Bertucci, from the Flint Firebirds. Everybody else, you could see who got drafted where, etc., etc. But it is a pretty intriguing look when you acknowledge that, for example, hey, look at the 4th overall guy on this list. Oliver Bonk had 17 fewer points than Hunter Brzustewicz in the same amount of games played, and that guy was taken in the 1st round by the Philadelphia Flyers on draft day. Now you could say, okay, well, Oliver Bonk's dad, Radek Bonk, was an NHL player, so there's an added benefit there, but either way, Brzustewicz literally outscored a first-round talent this previous year. Included is a video clip that the OHL posted themselves on their Twitter account, where you have some quotes, you have some really interesting highlights of Hunter Brzustewicz and the way he's able to create offense. Within this Twitter video is a comment from Craig Button saying that Brzustewicz has an incredible sense of calm and poise to his game, and how every time the puck leaves his stick, it's always in a better place than it was before. The highlights show him making some nifty passes and making some really nice plays. This is what Chris Faber writes about when it comes to Brzustewicz and his profile. We love that he has a high level of all-around skill. He's a capable defender, a good skater, has a decent shot, and sees the ice well. He doesn't have a weakness in his game, and he happens to play a position of value as a right-handed D. The best part of his game is his offense, specifically his playmaking. The video included goes over a lot of these, but Chris writes that describing Brzustewicz' puck-moving ability is best done by saying that he is deceptive with his passes. He does an excellent job looking off a defender in the offensive zone, or at times just making a no-look pass that often lands directly on a teammate's stick in a dangerous position. As a result, when you take a look at the minutes he got, the power play time he got, it's no surprise that he went out there and had a great draft season in terms of his points. Faber writes that when it comes to the ceiling for Brzustewicz, he could be a top 4 defenseman with second power play potential. It will take a hell of a few years of development, but with the current skill set that he possesses at 18 years old, you can see him become a stronger defender as he finishes off his teenage years, and then, if he could bring that improved defensive play along with the offensive background of pro hockey, he will find success. However, what I also like about these Faber articles is that there is a recommendation on floor. He's got a floor of being a top 4 AHL defender. We can see Brzustewicz being one of these defensemen who finds the AHL jump easier than others. Because of his good base level of all-around skill, he is going to be trusted for minutes in the AHL on the day of his arrival. He has good enough puck skills to be an AHL defender that's skilled, especially after 1 or 2 more seasons in the OHL. Now, Faber goes out there and writes a lot more. There's a talk about production, there's a talk about projection, and other stuff like that. The link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and expand more so on Faber's thoughts on this prospect. But I wanted to just go over the pretty big win that this draft pick seems to have been. Like, obviously, the draft was only like 3 weeks ago, so we're not really in any territory to call anybody taken after the first round a steal, but if the Vancouver Canucks are able to get themselves, let's say, even just a bottom pair defender, maybe a middle 4 defender, if he's actually good enough to stick around in that role in the 3rd round, then that's a pretty solid get. You talk about the Vancouver Canucks and their 3rd round pick last year, Elias Pettersson, D. Petey. This is a team that is seemingly taking all the shots they could get at these middle round ranked defenders that may not necessarily have the most pizzazz or the highest point totals or whatever, but who just play solid all around games. Elias Pettersson is not going to be a guy who blows your socks off with offensive production, but he's been a very good shutdown guy in his year of development ever since being drafted in 2022. If Brzustewicz can exhibit that same sort of growth while also getting a few more points next year in the OHL, this could be a really solid pickup. And for the Vancouver Canucks to have gotten these guys where they got them, in drafts where they did not have second-round picks, they're taking guys that at the very least are showing off that they have second-round value attached to them. And I know right away at face value that might not seem like that big of a deal. Oh wow, you're drafting a second-round guy in the 3rd round. Wow, we should give this guy the GM of the Year award, right? I get that you can be cynical like that, but it's a good thing that they're capitalizing on their value. And the Vancouver Canucks ultimately get themselves some pretty good prospects to show for it, especially ones like Hunter Brzustewicz and last year's Elias Pettersson. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Hunter Brzustewicz and the way he is progressing in the OHL. If you're a Kitchener Rangers fan, then I would love to see some input in the comment section. How do you feel about this guy? What do you think about his potential? What do you think about the way he plays the game? Anybody who is an OHL fan, please let me know in the comments your thought process on him and how he was the top OHL draft-eligible defender in points this previous year. He had more points than first-round Oliver Bonk, so if you're going at it from a strict point production point of view, you could bring up the argument that the guy the Canucks got in the 3rd round was better than the guy the Flyers got in the 1st round, but of course that's kind of asinine to bring up. Either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Hunter Brzustewicz and his prospect profile as a Vancouver Canuck. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.